Hello, so here I am Dr. Sethi and I am here on behalf of Unacademy and Sriram's IAS with this video of Sociology Optional. And आपने आप में से जिन्होंने भी पहले के videos देखे हैं आपने देखा है कि इन videos में we are taking small topics and I am trying to give you a glimpse of these topics. So we've in my previous videos we've seen the emergence of sociology. We've seen the relationship of sociology with other social sciences. We've looked at sociology and science. So now basically in this video what we will be talking about is a very important aspect of sociology optional paper, and that is sociological thinkers. For all the students out there who are preparing for UPSC for जो sociology को अपना optional लेके रखे हैं उनके लिए sociological thinkers will be a crucial topic. आपका बहुत important part paper का इस topic में से इस unit में से आता है. Before directly going on with it, let me give you a little glimpse about Sriram's IAS, about the entire reason of these videos of this online course. So we have a team of devoted faculty for each and every paper. So as you can see, alag papers, alag faculty who have been working in their respective fields for past some time. They are here to guide you. I in particular, as I told you, I'll be taking the paper of sociology. Sriram's IAS itself is a name it's a premier name in this particular field, and they have been given great results for past several years. I think now it's more than 35 years that they've been involved in this domain. About me in particular, Dr. Sethi, I have been involved with sociology for a long time myself. So I've done my honours in sociology from LSR, then I went on to do my PhD in sociology from JNU. I've taught at LSR, JNU, other institutes. I've been involved with students for a long time now, 8+ years. I've dealt in making courses for sociology at different places. So in short, if I have to say, this paper is very close to me, and the mode of teaching is going to be interactive, and the concentration is not only on understanding, the concentration is also on writing. Because वो एक area है जिसमें कई बार हम लोग overlook कर देते हैं, तो वो important रहेगा हमारे लिए. Now this is something which will be of use for all of you. You see, here you have this offer from Sriram's IAS, and because here we know that आप लोग इतने hard work कर रहे हो, you are putting in your efforts here. So this is a small offering from us. It's a flat 20% off for all of you, for all the students there, for the aspirants there. The point is, please go. Check the course online. The course is available online. The classes have been scheduled online, and once you see them, you'll be able to know that how the classes have been scheduled, and you'll be able to use this offer to the best of your utility. So do that, and hope this will be of use for all of you. Now, as I was telling you all that today we will be concentrating on one particular theme, and that is sociological thinkers. Okay, let's begin with it. Sociological thinkers. So sociological thinkers becomes a very important topic for you all. आपके लिए जो पेपर होगा उसमें से मेजर पार्ट सोशियोलॉजिकल थिंकर्स में से ईदर डायरेक्टली ईदर इनडायरेक्टली आएगा. So there would be questions like, say, illustrate Marx's contributions, illustrate Weberian contributions to sociology. बहुत डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चंस है, आपको समझ आ जाएगा. यू हैव टू डिस्कस कार्ल मार्क्स, या फिर यू हैव टू डिस्कस वेबर, यू हैव टू डिस्कस मर्टन, जो भी थिंकर आपको दिया गया है, यू हैव टू डिस्कस दैट थिंकर एंड यू हैव टू टॉक अबाउट देयर कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस, द वेरियस कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस इन ब्रीफ. वेरी डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन. Sometimes the question could be, say, something like discuss religion in terms of thinkers, or how these particular thinkers think about religion or their views on religion or something like that. Now this becomes an indirect question, right? तो religion सुनते you have to understand religion है, तो मुझे मार्क्स की थोड़ी सी बात करनी है, मुझे वेबर की थोड़ी सी बात करनी है, मुझे डर्कहाइम की थोड़ी सी बात करनी है. मेनली वेबर एंड डर्कहाइम, इनके बारे में मुझे बात करनी है. एलिमेंट्री फॉर्म्स ऑफ रिलीजियस लाइफ एंड प्रोटेस्टेंट एथिक एंड स्पिरिट ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म. Have to talk about them, but these are indirect questions. So that is why sociological thinkers will be important for you all. In sociological thinkers, अगर आप सबने अपना कोर्स आउटलाइन ढंग से देखा होगा, तो you have a few of them. You have the classical sociological thinkers. Classical sociological thinkers are basically Marx, the Trinity. इनको हम सोशियोलॉजी में बहुत पॉपुलरली बोलते हैं ट्रिनिटी. ओके, सॉरी. So here you have Marx, Weber and Durkheim. So you have Karl Marx, you have Max Weber and you have Emile Durkheim. Apart from them, apart from the classical thinkers, for your course you would also be doing Merton, we will also be doing Mead and we will also be doing Parsons. So don't worry, ये मत सोचिए ये तीन नाम क्यों नहीं है. You have Mead, you have Mertens and you have Parsons, the MMP. Okay, you have Parsons. So these three thinkers are going to be there. So we'll begin with the Trinity. By Trinity again, we'll begin with Karl Marx in particular. Okay. Now, how we are doing these things in this course is basically when I'm taking up a thinker. If I'm talking about Karl Marx, we'll do a little bit of the socio-cultural political context of Karl Marx. Okay, we'll do a little bit of socio-cultural political context of Durkheim, Weber and so on. Why? Because उसके बारे में अगर आप जान जाएंगे तो आप थिंकर को समझ सकते हैं. थिंकर ने ऐसा क्यों लिखा, भाई कहने को थिंकर ये भी कह सकता था, ABC भी बोल सकता था, उसने XYZ ही क्यों बोला. मतलब there must be some influence, that is why he is talking about XYZ, he is focusing on XYZ, and that influence is also really important to understand when you are talking about a thinker. इससे क्या होगा, जब आप आंसर लिख रहे हैं, जब आप उस थिंकर के बारे में जैसे ही वो थिंकर दिमाग में आएगा, you will understand very quickly that okay, this is what this thinker had contributed, this is what this thinker had wrote. Okay. For example, if I give you an example, there is Marx, there is Weber, there is Durkheim, right? The interesting part is all these three people, they were writing at a very similar time. They were writing at a very similar time given the similar socio-cultural context. Okay. Yet when you think about Weber and when you think about Marx, the way they have discussed religion is very different. Marx का तो एक बहुत ही popular quote है that religion is what? It is the opium of masses. In very simple terms, Marx has told us that it is opium of masses. Weber, on the other hand, will talk about religion in terms of capitalism, in terms of business. Durkheim again will talk about religion in very different terms. He'll also talk about totemism, about sacred, about profane. Jabki all of them were growing in a very similar climate. Okay? Yet, they must have been influenced differently. Right? Marx ka upbringing alag tha, Marx ka conditions of upbringing alag tha, Weber ka alag tha, and that is why they have seen the same concept in different ways. Okay? Now, in the first place, as I was saying, that we will be beginning with Karl Marx. Okay? So now we are talking about Karl Marx. Now Karl Marx, let me tell you all, is a very interesting figure. Why is it a very interesting figure? Karl Marx ko, are you ready to call Karl Marx a sociologist? Are you ready to call Karl Marx an economist? Are you ready to call Karl Marx a political scientist? Very difficult. क्योंकि एक ऐसा इंसान है जिन्होंने सारी फील्ड्स, सारे टॉपिक्स पे बोला है, सारी फील्ड्स को कवर किया है, डिफरेंट चीज़ें उन्होंने उनके बारे में हमें बताई है. सो ऑनेस्टली यू मे अग्री विद कार्ल मार्क्स, यू मे डिसअग्री विद कार्ल मार्क्स. व्हाट यू कांट डू इज़ यू रियली कांट इग्नोर कार्ल मार्क्स. There is a debate and this debate has been happening since time immemorial. जब से हम कार्ल मार्क्स को पढ़ना शुरू किए हैं तब से हो रहा है. कोई बोलेगा नहीं he is a sociologist, कोई बोलेगा he is an economist, कोई बोलेगा he is a political scientist, क्योंकि his work has been used in all these domains. ठीक है. And again his criticism is most of these disciplines like sociology criticize करेगा कार्ल मार्क्स को on the fact that he is not a pure sociologist. ठीक है. तो भाई हम फिर भी यूज़ तो कर रहे हैं उनकी theory. So that is the interesting thing about Karl Marx, that he is one person who has contributed immensely. Again, one of the major things about Karl Marx would be that how he links everything, most of the things, to class, to economics. So that will be the base of his work. How, why, what all, we will see. Another interesting thing was that when Karl Marx began writing, it was not really accepted. It was not very much, बहुत वोग में नहीं था, बहुत फैशन में नहीं था. Karl Marx was not very accepted. It was with time. It was with time when your Vietnam War happened. Okay, so you had conditions like you had things like Vietnam War, there were students' movements, there was discussion on rights, on egalitarianism. It was when these things started happening at that time, Marxian writings, what we call Marxian writings. Marxian writings began gaining prominence, okay? And with time we see that Karl Marx became an intrinsic part of most of social sciences, and sociology definitely yes. Now having said that, we will begin with Marxian contributions to sociology. When you are talking about Karl Marx, and for your course, for your syllabus, we will be concentrating and we will be taking Marx in three important aspects. We will be talking about three crucial aspects of Marx. What these are, let's see. First and foremost, we will be discussing what we call historical materialism. Okay. We are discussing historical materialism. Next we are talking about is class struggle. And next we are talking about is alienation. These are the three important aspects of Marx, three important contributions of Marx which we will be doing in this course, namely historical materialism, class struggle, alienation. So I will be taking each of these topics one by one. So the structure would be something like, we will take up the topic, we will see that what led to this kind of contribution, what was this contribution, and of course its relevance and critique. Okay. So for all these contributions we are going to do their critiques also. Many a times you will see that the critiques are overlapping, which is okay, क्योंकि सारे contributions एक दूसरे से linked हैं, ठीक है. In fact, alienation will come as a critique of historical materialism. So we will see how. Now let's begin. So in this video we will begin with historical materialism. I will give you a little brief of what historical materialism is all about. Historical materialism. I will be denoting it as HM. Now before beginning it here, let's just talk about it. Historical materialism, as the name suggests, it is about giving primacy to the materialistic aspect. Okay, giving primacy to the materialistic aspect. Now how? Let's understand this with an example. Now imagine, for example, imagine that हम कोई काम कर रहे हैं, like मैं कोई काम कर रही हूँ, I'm a human being in society, and for my own survival, for example, I'm involved in say something like agriculture. Okay, I want to use my land and I want to do agriculture there. With time, my needs have increased. Okay, so I can't do agriculture myself. What will I need? I'll need someone to give me land. I'll need someone to give me land. I will need somebody to give me cattle, to give me the animals to work on those land, right? So somebody has given me land, say A has given me land, say B has given me cattle, and this is me. Okay, so I have to enter into what we call relations of production with these people, right? So I am entering into relations of production. Or ROP. Okay. We have entered into ROP with these people. Somebody provided me land, the other person provided me the cattle. With time, my needs increased. Human tendency है, basic से आपको जैसे ही basic satisfy होता है, you want something extra, you want something more, so your needs increase. So then, I'm not satisfied with cattle, right? New technology has come in, I want something like a tractor. Right? Now, या तो B ही मुझे ट्रैक्टर प्रोवाइड कर दे या फिर I'll need to get into relations of production with someone else, right? So my relations of production will change. So a new person will come here, C, from whom I will get the tractor. Now this tractor ho gaya, this cattle ho gaya, what are these? These are basically your forces of production. These are basically your forces of production, your tools and equipments and everything. Okay. Now this relation, the relation between man and thing, for example, man and the tractor, man and the cattle, that is called the mode of production. That is called the mode of production. Your mode of production has changed. MOP. Your mode of production has changed from cattle to tractor, right? So that is mode of production. Okay. The relationship between man and thing. The relationship between man and man, this, and the relationship between man and thing together is called relations of production. Together it is called relations of production. This in particular is called your forces of production. All your tools, all the equipments which have been used in the production process, that is called your forces of production. Now when there is a change in the forces of production, when there is a change in the forces of production aspect of relations of production, that is called mode of production. Your mode of production changes. That is what we say कि ये simple cattle से complex tractor पे आ गया, right? So mode of production change हुआ, ठीक है? So we have three concepts here. You have relations of production, you have forces of production, and you have your modes of production, right? Now together these relations of production and forces of production, according to Marx, what I told you in the beginning, that economics is the basic point for Marx, that pura society, individuals, human beings, how are we functioning, how are we sustaining ourselves on the basis of simple plain economics. Okay. So according to Marx, we see he gives maximum prominence to this. So he says that if this is society, your relations of production and your forces of production together, they form the base. They form the base. What is this base called? This is basically your economic substructure. This is basically your economic substructure. Now everything else in society is not just about this, right? Society is also about your religion, it is about family, it is about beliefs, it is about customs, it is about culture. All of that will be part of your social superstructure. That means it includes all the other aspects, be it family, be it religion, beliefs, education, and so on. All of these are part of social superstructure. So in short, your social superstructure is based on your economic substructure. So any change that is happening here, any change that is happening in the economic substructure, that will lead to a change in the social superstructure. Social superstructure is dependent on your economic substructure. So I hope this is clear to everyone. So human beings, we produce, right? For production, you get into relations of production with someone. Relations of production ke saath saath, you would also have to get into the forces of production. When these forces of production, when they change, we call that is basically the mode of production which is changing. Mode of production changes from simple to complex and more complex, right? So your mode of production also changes. All these together, relations of production and forces of production together, they form your economic substructure. On your economic substructure is your social superstructure. Social superstructure is basically all the other aspects of society. So you have your family, you have your religion, you have your beliefs, customs, laws, education, all these things based on the economic substructure, which again is the relations of production and forces of production. Okay. And any change here will lead to change here. That is how societies change. And that is the other aspect of historical materialism which we will do now. Okay. Then another point which he talks about in this change, in this substructure and superstructure, is about being and social being. So according to Marx, what happens is, initially it is your being. It is your being which is letting you be. It is basically you as an individual. Over time, what Marx says is this individual is seen within society. So this social context, the social context enters. As soon as the social context appears, your being gets transformed into social being. Like the reason that why your work was not sufficient with the cattle and you had to shift to tractor was also because of your social being, that you needed to produce more, you needed to be a part of society, the societal expectations came in, you wanted to produce more, your needs increased, right. So your being had transformed into social being. As the society progresses, your being also transforms. This we will talk about this later also when we talk about consciousness. I would just want you to remember this term consciousness. When we are talking about Karl Marx, you should remember this term consciousness. We will talk about consciousness when we are talking about class struggle. At that time, you will talk about true consciousness, false consciousness. For now, you have to understand that consciousness also changes with being and social being. Now, this is another aspect that Marx had talked about. So, I hope it remains clear till now. Then, now we've seen the change in terms of change of mode of production, change of relations of production, change within the economic substructure. Along with change in the economic substructure, I told you that change happens in the social superstructure. In short, what is happening? Change is happening in society. Change is happening in society, right? And here we see that societies are changing from one to another. So from primitive, the society comes to ancient. From ancient, it moves towards feudal. From feudal, it moves towards capitalist. From capitalist, it moves towards socialist and then communist. So basically, we have seen that Marx has talked about change. Before this, we've seen that Marx has talked about change, right? And he's talked about change in context about society or individual, okay? And he talks about change, the basic idea about change itself, and change in existing societies, and futuristic societies. So there is change in individual. This change in individual is happening what? Through we have seen the economic substructure and the social superstructure, and then we see changes in societies, and changes in society is happening in the existing society and futuristic societies. This is what we will be doing now, the change in society. Now here we see changes in existing societies, and Marx also talks about the futuristic societies. Okay. Now when we are talking about existing societies, what are we talking about? Marx sees a change that initially there was primitive communism. Okay, there's primitive communism. From primitive communism, we have gradually come to ancient society, ancient mode of production. From ancient mode of production, we come to feudal mode of production. From feudal mode of production, we come to capitalist mode of production. Okay. And in terms of futuristic societies, Marx is talking about is basically communism. Before communism, we'll talk about socialism. Socialist and communist. So these are basically the futuristic society, in terms of which you see that socialist stage is more like a transitory stage which will lead to pure communism. And this, when we will study about pure communism, you will see that this is also critiqued generally as an utopia, that it actually does not exist. You do not have genuine pure communist societies. Even within the communist societies, even within socialist societies today, the existence of classes cannot be ignored. Okay, so that is one of the critiques of Marx when we are talking about these societies, and when we are talking about these stages that Marx gave in terms of societies. Now, primitive communism, ancient mode of production, feudal mode of production, capitalist mode of production. What is interesting about each of these stages would be basically your existence of classes. Okay, so in every stage there are basically classes. Okay, so now we'll quickly see what are these classes and which stage has what classes in this video. Now, firstly, I told you we have primitive communism. When we are talking about primitive communism, we are saying that everyone is equal. Everyone is equal, there is collective ownership, there is no private ownership, and everybody is working on the same level, you are producing the same, you are consuming the same. So it is pure egalitarianism. It is when human beings have their basic needs which are being met. Okay, so it is the purest form, it is the most equal kind of form. So here you do not have classes. You don't see the existence of classes here. I told you human beings का speciality क्या है? We have needs. As soon as our needs get satisfied, new needs come up, right? आजकल nobody is happy with only roti kapra makan, right? Your needs increase. You want something more. You are always perpetually dissatisfied. So that is what Marx in fact said, that human being, man, is a perpetually dissatisfied animal. What did Marx say? Marx had said that man is a perpetually dissatisfied animal. And this is one statement which helps us to understand that yes, that is why he talked about these societies, he talked about the changes in these societies. Why? Because man, the intrinsic tendency is that first of all we will produce. The basic act for survival is production. Whenever you start reading about Karl Marx in any of your books, this will be one of the first lines that you will read, which is the basic act of survival is production, या फिर production will be the first act of survival. As soon as that happens, your basic needs get transformed into more needs. Why? Because man is a perpetually dissatisfied animal. With the change of these needs, with the increase of these needs, the kind of society that we are talking about will change. Okay, so from primitive communism, then we come to ancient mode of production. Your ancient mode of production, and here you will then have existence of classes. Classes will emerge here. So you will have masters and slaves. How did these classes come up? We will talk about it when we talk about the stage, when we will talk about the ancient mode of production in particular. So we will see that gradually what happened when the needs increased, there were some people who started producing more, some people who started gaining resources, started gaining more access to resources, right? So because of which they became the privileged ones. They became the ones with more resources. Okay, so they became the masters, and they started exploiting the others. Who were the others? The others were the slaves. This is very simplistic explanation. We will do it in detail. So this is your ancient mode of production. From your ancient mode of production, then you come to your feudal mode of production. Okay. In your feudal mode of production, also these two classes will exist. इनके names change हो जाएंगे. This will become lords and they will become your serfs. Okay. Then of course you have the capitalist mode of production. I think this everybody would know, capitalist mode of production. This may basically you have the capitalist and the worker. Okay. Capitalist is basically the term that Marx gave us, bourgeoisie, and for workers the term was proletariat. Okay. We will see, we'll talk about the bourgeois proletariat also, about the polarization concept also, we'll talk about that also. And then Marx told us that then there will be a stage in which you will again see no classes, and that is basically a socialist mode of production and your communist stage of production. So these are basically no classes. Now many would think that in that sense your last class, your communist mode of production, becomes similar to primitive communism. However, the case is not so. Why? Because here your consciousness has come in. You reach this stage after the development of all these stages. Okay, after all the conditions in these stages, you saw what happened in these stages, you saw that we went through exploitation, you saw that we went through alienation, there was a class conflict, there was polarization of classes, there was this division between bourgeois proletariat, and then there was a revolt, there was coming together of classes, the classes united, then revolt happened, and then we have reached here. Right? So consciousness have developed through these stages. Now what these stages are in detail, how do these stages develop, that is what we will take up in another video of ours, and we will also come to the idea of class and class conflict. So remember these classes and how these classes develop and what these classes actually mean. We will talk about this in another video of ours, which you can find soon here. And again, as I was telling you that with Sriram's IAS, you have this offer and you can go online, the link will be posted, you can check about all the schedule, you can see the schedule and check all the classes, and do avail this opportunity. So this is me, Dr. Ektajan Sethi, who will be taking your sociology optional, and me signing off, and we will find you in another video here. Thank you everyone.